Hello and welcome to today's lunch with the Northern Italy chapter. I'm Giusy Meloni, president of the chapter, and with me is Gabriele Filieri, one of our valuable volunteers. Today, we have the pleasure to welcome Ashwini Bakshi, the PMI Managing Director for Europe. Ashwini comes to PMI with over 25 years of experience across diverse geographies and with a strong focus in creating value. Today, we'll talk about the project economy in Europe and is looking forward to answering your question. Kindly write them in the chat box and we will share them during the Q&A session. Now, I give the virtual floor to Ashwini.
Thank you, Giusy, and buongiorno to everybody. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this session. It's, as always, a privilege and an honor. And I hope that everybody is well and safe. These are difficult times and everybody's got a lot of things on their mind, but the most important thing, of course, is personal safety and the safety of those whom we love. So do take care and stay careful. The project economy, what to say about that? There's so much going on. We are living the project economy now. And it starts with the fact that we are experiencing unprecedented change. We've spoken about a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment, a VUCA world, as they say, for a while. But it has truly become a VUCA world. Starting earlier this year, nobody could have predicted a pandemic like this and the changes that it has brought about. It's been a difficult year. For many, a year of sorrow. For many people, a year of job losses, which have affected many of our colleagues, our friends, even our families, and that's painful to see. But at the same time, this has also been a year of opportunities and strength. So if we come out, when we come out of this pandemic together, we will be stronger. We would have learned new things. We would have learned how to handle disruptive change, and that's what the future it looks like is going to be all about. How do we prepare for a change like this? It's not going to become, I think, it's not going to become any easier to predict change. We are not going to be able to say when the next pandemic comes or some other natural disaster or man-made disaster comes. That's not going to happen. We don't have a crystal ball. What probably will happen is we need to be able to adapt quickly. We will need to build a skill set. We will need to build a resilience that means that we will be able to handle whatever is thrown our way. And I've heard it said that the future for us, for the project management community, is increasingly not going to be, here is a project, please go and run it and deliver the outcomes on time. It will be more like, here is a problem. Figure out how to solve it and solve it quickly. And maybe solve it with whatever you have at hand. Don't expect that you will get resources from here or there, but a lot of creativity and initiative will be needed to solve those problems. And if that's the case, if we are going to have to rely upon ourselves and embrace our own resilience, then how do we do that? Where does it start? Forgive me, I need to just take a sip of water here. How do we start to build a capability which will enable us to react quickly, will enable us to pivot? As always, I think we need to start with ourselves. We need to assess where we are today. We need to take an inventory of our skills and capabilities. I often ask myself, but also colleagues and friends, and I say, look, we usually have a plan for, we have a financial plan, how much money to save, maybe how much money to invest, how much money to spend. We have an idea. Sometimes we even write it down. We usually also have a plan for our fitness. We have a plan for exercising 4 days a week, 5 days a week, every day. We have some sort of a diet plan. We watch what we eat. We are conscious about our health. But when I ask people, are you conscious and mindful about your capabilities? Do you have a written down plan to develop your own competences? I don't normally get an answer which says that, yes, I've got a plan. Most people have a broad idea. Maybe they rely upon their organizations to take care of it. Maybe they look at it when they have some free time, they take an online course. But we need to make it a lot more structured than that. For example, we know that digital is upon us. The digital trend was accelerating even before the pandemic struck. But with the pandemic, the digital transformation has been accelerated 5, 10 years. How do we make sense of that? How do we equip ourselves to deal with that? At PMI, we are thinking about Agile, for example, a methodology which came out of the technology world predominantly. We are adopting it more and more into our offerings, into our work. And that's something to think about. We all need to be thinking about how to become agile individuals, how to be part of an agile enterprise. Another good example, I feel, is citizen developer. The whole low code, no code environment or initiative. But more importantly than that, it is about democratization of software. Software has tended to be quite opaque, and in many ways it remains opaque. But a low code, no code dynamic creates a possibility that we are more in control, that we can not just bring our own devices to work, we can also bring or build our own applications. And that should provide a lot of freedom and control over something which was poorly understood until now. We are quite excited about that. These are just a couple of examples of how we can think about the digital trend as a massive megatrend and prepare ourselves in terms of adopting some of these new skill sets to be able to deal with this trend, to be able to use it to our own advantage. And I would certainly encourage all of us to think about how to do that. Another big thing that we see, and something that the COVID has made us alive to, is our connectedness. We are not alone. We are not as independent as we like to believe. Our destinies are intertwined with destinies of our colleagues, our communities, our nations, the people we work with in organizations. And that means that we must learn the skills which are needed to work with others, to achieve common purpose with others. Teamwork usually in the past has captured this sort of a requirement, but we need to be more granular now. We need to talk about empathy. We need to talk about collaboration. We need to talk about innovation, joint discovery, joint problem solving. These are all learnable skills, and we need to pay attention to these skills. Again, at PMI, we are thinking about these all the time, and we are, for example, now introducing something called wicked problem solving, which is actually a jointly developed offering with Tom Wujek and his group. Tom is a pioneer in collaborative problem solving, which is a very visual approach, borrowing from Lean and Kanban, a very visual approach to problem solving together with teams. And we introduced this just this month, and I'm quite excited about it. I think it's one more way in which we can develop some of these future-oriented skills. Another very important one, which PMI has not yet done much about, but we are thinking about it, is psychological well-being, psychological safety. All of us are under pressure of some sort, work pressure, personal pressure, family pressures. Working from home is not easy. It can be quite stressful. And as organizations pursue productivity objectives, they also need to be extremely conscious of the well-being of their employees, beyond simply having a periodic check-in call. Needs to go a lot deeper. We need to become skilled. Project managers need to become skilled. One of our key large enterprise partners said that they expect PMI to drive the development of skill sets which project managers will have, so that they can engage with their teams, not just to get the project done, not just to manage the scope and the deliverables and the risk and the cost, but also to manage the well-being of the employees of the project team. It helps no one if the project is successful, but you burn out the project team. And again, that means understanding the basics of psychology, the basics of questioning, the basics of supporting, knowing how much can you stretch the individual and the team, and when is it time to let go and stand back. Skills that are learnable. We have some things that we point to in this direction in our offerings, but I think increasingly that's something we have to think about a little bit more formally. All of it really speaks to how do we manage change, and this again is something that's been on our minds. How do we manage rapid change? We feel that every individual, every company needs to be able to manage change, needs to have an approach to managing change. And I see that when I speak to a lot of our partners, particularly people who run PMOs, they're all thinking about what is the strategic perspective on a PMO. And one strategic perspective is that the PMO needs to become the go-to place for change management advice, for change management capabilities. And that's something to think about. How do you evolve those capabilities? Because it's more than project management. It involves lean, it involves leadership principles, it involves change management principles. All these activities need to be combined in one cohesive capability. We are doing our bit here by introducing through the Brightline dimension, the organizational transformation products. And these are exciting too. These provide the building blocks of a strong change management capability, which hopefully we can all think about and learn. So the future really seems to be about adapting to change, building individual resilience, building organizational resilience, building an agile enterprise, paying conscious effort to our own skills development, having the plan to do so, because without a plan, you don't even make a start. And I want to encourage everybody, and I try to do this myself, to really think about what do I need to know about how the world is changing? What is the future likely to require from me, from my team, from my company? And how can I take actions today to handle that? I will end by saying that we also need to draw a distinction between learning and mastery. I read somewhere recently this very compelling statement that this is no time to be average. The problems that we are likely to face increasingly, like the pandemic problem, are not simple problems, they're complex problems. They will take the best of our capabilities as individuals and as teams. So, not enough just to learn. You have to be able to master things. Clearly, we cannot master everything. So, that's why I say draw a distinction. There is a bucket of things you want to learn, and that's good. And there are a few things which you need to be very, very, very good at. You need to stop off nothing short of outstanding. And I at least find that a very energizing and empowering notion. And I hope you do too. I am once again really pleased to be here with you today. I'm looking forward to the dialogue and the Q&A session. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And I count upon you and your support in taking project management, the project management community and the profession to new heights in the future, the bright future that lies ahead of us. Thank you so much for listening patiently. Back to you, Juicy.
Thank you, Ashwini. We have collected a few questions also in the day prior to this session. And strangely enough, they relate to some of the things that you have said. I'll start with one that kinds of rely upon your experience, worldwide experience. Given your experience and knowledge of both continents, can you advise on how should European countries, and Italy especially, cope with the rising competition from Asia-Pacific nations?
Right. That's a great question, and I would, my last job was with Ericsson, and just before that, with Kathrein, which is a small German uh, company in the telecom space, 100-year-old company. It survived for 100 years, and then in the 100th year, they ended up selling their core business to Ericsson. What I learned and what I would advise Italy, and I've worked with at Kathrein, we had a business which was headquartered in Italy, the broadcast antenna business. And what I would say is, look, the Asian competition, even for Asian competitors, is very intense. It's low cost. People work very, very hard, almost 24/7 to produce, I would say, good quality at very, very low prices. The way to fight against that is twofold, in my view. One is to create premium products, so high quality at high prices. That will not give you volume sales, but it will give you very profitable revenue. And it will give you thought leadership. So when people have a problem, so we had examples, just to give you an example, there were people who would not buy Kathrein, the German company's antennas because they were too expensive. But they were so good. Kathrein's name was so strong in terms of the quality and the long years of experience that even people who didn't buy the antennas would come to Kathrein for advice. What do we do with this problem? And what do we do here? They still wouldn't buy the product, but they would come and say, what do you think about this problem? And then we started to think about how do we leverage this position into products. So you must keep a leading position, a thought leadership position, be at the cutting edge. I think that's clearly one thing you have to do. The second thing you have to do is to have a low cost product of your own. It doesn't need to exactly match the Asian competition. It can be 10, 15, even 20% more. People will give you that premium for the reason I mentioned earlier. So if you have a premium product, if you have thought leadership, if people talk to you because they think they can learn something from you, they will pay you that 20% premium. That is, I would say, the fundamental way of competing. And then I would say the final thing would be have the best possible innovation engine. Because sooner or later, somebody will copy what you do anywhere in the world. The only way is to keep running, to be constantly 2 steps ahead. So look for innovation, look for new ideas. Do not be afraid to take risks. If the new ideas come from inside the company, that's great. If they come from outside the company, still okay. Learn to work with partners and be extremely customer centric. The customers that you have, hold on to them very, very closely. They will stick with you. Even if they get a low price product, your market share will not become zero. It may reduce from 30 to 20 or 15. It will not become zero. And so long as you're in the game, you can always make a comeback and win. And I will pause there. So it's a winnable battle.
Thank you, Ashwini. I think that those are very good advice for Italy in particular. I have other two questions from Chiara, but they linked one to another. What is the number one priority for chapter in Europe, and what is the number one priority for PMI in Europe?
Great question. I would say, and I know that there will be some disagreements with this. I would say the number one priority for chapters, from my point of view, right, as I see it, is to have a compelling vision for the future. What is chapter 2.0 or 4.0 or 5.0? Where do the chapters want to be in 5 years from now? So we need together to work on that vision. And that's not a simple thing. I understand that. Chapters draw a lot of lifeblood from face-to-face interactions, which are not going to be easy now. But still, we must think, what is it that only the chapters can do? That is how, chapters will stay vital and energized. That could be building a strong coalition with youth, with the entrepreneurial system, with the local, with the businesses and enterprises which are in your geographical location. So go deep, understand your immediate, 50 square kilometers, 100 square kilometers, 500 square kilometers better than anybody else. So I would say these are some of the examples of what could be done. I would say as well, achieve financial independence. Financial independence, even if it is just cost coverage, gives you the leverage to experiment. It gives you the leverage to try new things. So have that cushion, build that buffer so that you can afford to experiment a little bit. It's hard to do that in a financially pressurized situation. And then I would say work together. Let's work together with PMI chapters as we have done, but even more intensively to realize this vision together. So I know I gave 3 answers there, but if you were to say what is the first one, I would say the vision. Once the vision is clear, everything else is then a matter of detail and it will fall into place. For PMI in Europe, I think the priority is re-energizing. We haven't. I know that PMI is all sometimes thought of as a very American company in Europe, and I think with good reason. I would like to change that together with you. We need to build a European identity for PMI. And I would say the first order of business is to re-excite, re-energize our stakeholders, you on the call, the individual practitioners, members out there, the corporates and the enterprise who host many of our individual customers, the channel partners, REPs, ATPs. We all need to excite them with a sense of PMI's vision. That vision, then I believe will be built upon a strong narrative of the role that PMI will play in this journey towards the future. And as I mentioned, I'm personally excited about citizen developer, disciplined agile, wicked problem solving, organizational transformation. Just on the weekend, I was looking at the Navigator tool. The beta version is up. I think everybody can access that. I could be wrong, but I think everybody can access that. And I think that's a very powerful tool to build this competence development plan for yourself that I spoke about earlier. So I would say, long story short, to re-excite based upon the offerings, the new capabilities that we want to introduce to the community.
Okay, thank you. This one is the last question, I'm afraid, because we're getting close to ending our session. This comes from the floor and regards the new capabilities for the project manager you spoke about. And it's from Luca, and he asks, how can you measure the effectiveness?
Of these capabilities, this is a great question.
Such as team resilience, team wellness, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and there are 2 parts to the answer. One is that there are tools to measure. If you build these capabilities, then you can see, is the project meeting its objectives that were stated? Was it done on time, and was the risk managed, etc. Number 1. Number 2, we have to talk to people. It's collaborative, so we have to ask them, were you happy with what happened? If you were not happy, how could we improve in the future? And listen with an open mind to the feedback and take that into account. So with the stakeholders, with our own people, with the team, it's also very important to talk to them. What was that like? How did you feel? Did you feel good at achieving the project? Were you unhappy? Were you under pressure? How can we work better as a team? I think by asking these questions, on the one hand, the qualitative dimensions, and on the other hand, measuring the quantifiable aspects like cost and deliverables and time, we can get to a good picture. But I think above all, as project managers, we have to be in the detail. We have to be constantly connected to the people and to the flow of work. And I'm sure you do that already, but I find that whenever I do that, I develop an instinct as to whether the thing is going right or it's not going right, whether I need to stop and take some action or change something, or should I let things continue? So we have to be immersed in what we are doing, truly take joy from it and happiness from it, and really dive deep into it. And you will develop that instinct, which I think will tell you whether you're on the right track or not, I think.
Thank you, Ashwini. Thank you so much for this last answer, particularly because I think it talks to the heart to many of us. And yes, asking some difficult questions which are considered difficult in the professional environment, I think is key to the well-being, the people we work with. Having said that, I do thank you for being with us today. And I'll just go on to our last closing remarks for logistics. As usual, you will all receive the PDUs for these webinars, and also a questionnaire for a feedback. And also do not miss our next lunches. The first one will be on December 3rd, Project Management and Public Administration. The second one on the 14th of December, Decolonizzare il futuro. I don't know how to translate that in English, so I said in Italian with Beppe Carrella. The previous one is with Alessandro Bazziga. And most of all, do not miss the lunch, the very special surprise lunch we will have on 21st of December, hosted and organized by PMI Northern Italy chapter. Thank you all for attending. Thank you, Ashwini, so much. And good luck with working with PMI.
Thank you so much, Juicy. Thank you all for listening very patiently. Take care. Stay safe. Bye for now.
Stay safe.